hosted by a straight Christian man and an agnostic pansexual woman who are dedicated to outreach between Christians and the LGBTQIA plus community, tackling issues of rights, equality, and more.
While we will be keeping discussions civil, some issues will be triggering to some viewers. We feel that those topics are important to discuss to make real change.
Welcome to Morally Straight, the show where my name's Craig, and I'm a heterosexual cis male who wanted to do some outreach to the LGBTQ plus community, and seeing as I was close with someone who is in the community.
I'm pansexual and non-binary.
And also non-religious.
That too.
Anyway, the whole point of the show is, even if it's not like getting people to necessarily, like, I'm not expecting you to become a Christian, for example, but just to show that there's, ways that you can interact with one another, no matter which group you're in, or if you're in both groups, that are respectful, and it doesn't have to be either side judging the other, because it happens both ways. Way more from my side, to be fair, judging, the gay community. But, because of that, there's a lot of judging going the other way. It's like, oh, this is what all Christians think. And this is just our attempt to say, hey, how about this? Like, we're all human beings. Why don't we try to respect one another?
Right.
Basically. Anyway, one of the things that's been coming up lately in my feed when it comes to Facebook and Twitter and stuff, I know you said you've seen it a little yourself, and I know this doesn't have as much to do with this show, but with Roe versus Wade being overturned and being sent back to the States, there are people that are worried that they're going to try to overturn gay marriage also. And that reminded me of something I thought of back when I was in high school. And I'm 44, so that was a while back, kids. But I remember when Vermont was first coming out with the idea of civil unions, where they're like, it'll be the same rights and privileges, just it won't be officially called marriage. And I thought that that was nonsense then, honestly. I had this thought, and I'm going to back it up with, it's my opinion, but I think if it starts to upset you, the things that I'm suggesting, please hear me out and just hear my reasoning. That's not my intent. My intent is to, have an answer that will get, equality for everybody. And that's really what my thought always has been. My first point is, for thousands of years, marriage has been considered a religious ceremony. Not just Judeo-Christian like mine, but most religions have some form of marriage, whether it's Hindu, whether they have different ways of expressing it, but there's still marriage. There was technically something that they considered marriage prior to a religious marriage, but it was actually more selling your daughter to a man for money and he then owned her. I don't really consider that what marriage is supposed to be, is owning your partner. that just doesn't seem like what a marriage should be. And I don't care what your faith is on that one. Like, if you think that the one person should own the other, then you're doing it wrong, in my opinion. Let's just be honest. Okay, I'm not talking about the things that you and your fiance have. I'm talking about, legal ownership. I saw the smirk. I know what you were thinking. Now, let's see. So this is how I would change it if I could, because legally and constitutionally, this seems like the most correct approach. Okay. I know that it's going to upset some Christians. It's probably going to upset some LGBTQIA plus folks. That's not my intent. But anyway, the First Amendment says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. And I'm not going to get into the rest of it because it doesn't really apply. This is a religious thing. If it's a religious ceremony, the government, in my opinion, should never have any say about who you marry anyway, because in the Constitution, it says they're not supposed to make any laws regarding a religious institution. So if marriage is a ceremony that's religious, then they never, in my opinion, based on the First Amendment, had the right to stop anyone from getting married. They also shouldn't give you tax breaks or any of the other things that come with marriage in this country, because they shouldn't stick their nose into it by, like, I mean, it's the first thing in the first rule of what the government's allowed to do. So my thought was, so I'll start with the religious stuff, okay? It's like the fact that we have laws about a religious ceremony is against the First Amendment. No law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof means just that. No law, meaning the rights granted by marriage are technically illegal. You shouldn't have to earn rights by becoming married. You should already have those rights as a citizen of this country. And it annoys me that you get extra rights when you're married. I understand that at the time they were trying to promote marriage as like the best thing, but I know that you've probably talked to many people who don't feel it's the best thing for them.
Yeah.
You know? So my thought is, if the government wants to get involved and have tax statuses and all those things, then that should be for civil unions for anyone. And I'm not saying for two men. I'm saying it shouldn't matter if it's a heterosexual couple, two men, two women, trans, non-binary, whatever, interracial, because there was a big problem with that for many, many years in this country. And I know they're worried about that too in some places because of this.
Yeah.
Again, if everyone had civil unions, that makes it a federal thing. That would give you the tax statuses and all those things. And because we have civil rights and equality laws on the books federally, that means no one would have the right to say, well, you can't because you're in this subgroup.
Right.
So you might be thinking, but what if I'm gay and a Christian? Well, my thought there is, as for marriage, it should still be a thing for followers of any and all religions. I'm not trying to be specific to mine. If they choose to get married, and whether it's their God or multiple gods or whatever faith anyone has, and the government should just stay out of it. And many churches will perform weddings for gay couples or trans couples or and there's a lot that won't. But I think if you go to a church and you are non-binary or a lesbian or whatever your specific part of the community is, and they won't accept you getting married to the person you love, then luckily there are more and more churches that are opening their doors to such things, and you can find one that's going to respect who you are and who you love. And I think that, again, that should be between you and your faith. And a little bonus, there's what my son did, where he got ordained by the Universal Life Church, and they have no restrictions on who's getting married, and it can still be the religious ceremony. It's officially sanctioned, and he can marry any of his friends because he got that certificate. I mean, he told you he'd be more than willing to do that for you. That's why you were one of the two couples he got it for, you and Drew, and his another friend of his also. So yes, there are a lot of religions or sects or specific churches that say they won't do it, but that seems to me like that would be an awkward situation to be in anyway. I wouldn't want to go to a church where I didn't feel accepted as who I was personally. And I'm sure if you put it out there on Facebook, hey, we're looking for a church that accepts me for who I am, there will be answers, especially from other people in the community who have probably done a lot of research for the same reasons you are. Yeah, like I said, you can always get one from the Universal Life Church, and it's free, by the way. But this way, the government stays completely out of your bedroom because it doesn't belong there. It can't regulate either thing, because if it tries to regulate marriage, that's interfering with religion. That's against the Constitution. And if it tries to say gay marriage or gay civil unions aren't allowed, well, that's not okay, because there are laws on the books that say that we're supposed to be treated equally. There's laws for that purpose. This would make it so that all the groups that are protesting, I don't want gay people to get married, they'll just have to shut up, because with a civil union, it's not a religious thing. So their excuse of my religion doesn't allow it has no bearing on the topic. And they can be mad at churches that accept it, but you know what? They'll just move to another less progressive church, just like some people will move to a more progressive church to find someone to marry them.
Right.
So those are basically my points to that topic. Now, you let me muddle on through most, like all the way. What are your thoughts on? I mean, because it actually would affect you way more than me. So, what are your thoughts?
I don't know. Like, I don't really think of like marriage as like a religious thing.
A lot of people don't.
And like I know that it is, but I don't really think of it that way.
Right.
And like I don't know, civil union, like right now it doesn't really give us the
and
benefits that
I
marriage does.
I understand that, and that's why I said like whatever rules currently apply legally with marriage should apply across the board.
Right.
But that, again, that's in a world where people understand the Constitution.
Right. And as of right now,
There's a lot of
obviously
people that
with the
don't.
world that
There's
we
a
live
lot.
in right now, they don't.
There's a lot of people that don't.
So like, yeah, in the most perfect world that we can have with equality for everyone, that would be great. But sadly, that's not the world that we live in right now.
I'm not saying that this is something
So-
that's magically able to happen. This is
Yeah.
just something that it was in the early 90s, and I was like, how does no one figure this out? And I had friends, I wasn't going to church at the time. I had friends that hated the idea. I had friends that were gay that hated the idea. And I was like, well, maybe that means it makes the most sense and here's the thing, like, in no way am I saying should you not be allowed to get married if you're gay. I'm saying there are many places that would do that ceremony, because the last thing I'm trying to do is say it's an outreach show and then have, someone who happens to be a follower of Jesus hear me say that I don't think they should get married, because that's not what I'm saying. I'm actually making it clear that they absolutely should. I don't think the government should stick their nose in it as the big thing. I think it's weird that there's specific rights that come with marriage, or even if it was with a civil union. I kind of don't like that, because if it's a right, it's a right. You shouldn't have to be married to earn a right.
Right.
Like, that's not how rights work. You're supposed to be given them at birth, like they're yours. You can't have them taken away. You can't, like, that's what a right is by definition. So the fact that there's extra rights for people that get married, and I've been married, didn't work out, but I've been married, and I have to say, like, I didn't understand why I was paying less in taxes because I was married. Like, that was weird to me. Like, I got more of a refund. Like, I liked getting the bigger refund, but it doesn't seem legit. Like, it's like they're almost paying you to get married and have kids, which is another argument why they were pushing so hard against gay marriage, because you rarely have a lot of kids when it's two guys or two women,
Right.
But there's a lot more permutations now, aren't there? So guess what? You have to adapt. Like, I thought of this adaptation before like trans was like a main thing that people talked so much about. Like it's much more out there than it was when I was a kid.
Sorry.
You know?
Yeah, I got
You all right?
I got something in my eyeball.
Well, don't do that. It looks painful.
Yeah, sorry.
No, like,
I'm pretty sure it's my mascara. It's okay.
well, if it's in your eye, it's probably not okay.
I mean, true, but
Your eye's kind of watering.
yeah. I just stabbed myself in the eye with my fingernail. It's good. We're good.
Wow.
We're getting there.
Anyway,
Yeah.
what were you going to say before
don't
you
know.
stabbed yourself?
I have no idea.
And again, like I know that this isn't like a perfect thing. I just think like if you could go back and just undo the government sticking their nose in people's bedrooms in the first place, that would be the best answer.
Yeah.
Because they had, you know, they had
The
sodomy
things they
laws
would see
to
in my
keep,
bedroom. The things they would see.
you know, the anti-sodomy laws, which by the way, a lot of people misunderstand what that word means. Oral is also sodomy. Look it up. I'm just saying. Like nobody
Oral.
thinks of that. Nobody thinks of that.
Oral is the best way to go.
Well, it hurts nobody. Like I've never heard anyone on the receiving end go, "That hurt."
Until I squeeze my
Well,
thighs together.
Wow.
Cut your
Yeah,
air-
but that's not you that's hurting.
Airway off.
You're hurting him. But anyway. No, but the point is back to the
Actual topic on
yeah.
the end.
Like I don't know, like to me the whole argument where it's like, well, you know, it's against the Bible. It's like, okay, but that's not the only religion in which marriage was a thing. Like there are religions that don't follow the Judeo-Christian Bible that also have marriage. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like there's other religions that, and again, to not make laws about religion means any of them.
Yeah.
Like I don't care if you're Christian, Jewish, Muslim, Hindu, whatever, the government shouldn't regulate that by the definition of the First Amendment. I'm a big constitutionalist. I love free speech. We don't really swear on this show, but that's because we don't feel it's necessary. That's not really what the show's about. But the main...
I have sailor mouth, so I've been holding
I
way,
know.
way back.
There was only one slip in one episode, and it was a guest, and, you know, we covered up what she said.
Yeah. But to
Great
be
guest,
honest,
though.
I love her. Oh my gosh, I love her. But to be like completely honest, obviously for me,
Yeah.
with my lack of religious views,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that marriage should be considered a religious thing.
I mean,
Like I know that it is, but I just feel like it shouldn't be.
right. Well, see, my argument there is only the fact that because it's traditionally been that, like around the world, like changing that would be saying, you're basically saying that the world should just accept that the majority of them and what they say, because the majority of people have some form of faith. Between Christian, you know, Muslims huge, Hindu, they've got so many people. I mean, even, you know, smaller things like Scientology or even the Church of Satan, like any of them.
Scientology.
Well, you know, and I'm not trying to judge.
Let's
anyone.
not get into that.
I'm not trying to judge anyone's religion because I'm not. That's not really the point. I'm not trying to push mine. I'm saying, you know, that would be like saying, Christmas isn't really a religious thing. It's like, well, a lot of people that do it don't look at it that way. But I mean, that doesn't, just because you're not doing it the way that it was created doesn't mean that like the meaning of Christmas should change. Same with marriage, in my opinion. Now, again, I'm not going back to the days of, you know, you pay me and you get to own my daughter and make her, you know, your bride who's going to give you all these children.
Right.
I think that was actually rather twisted. And I know that there's some places that still do, you know, not quite the same, but they have arranged marriages and stuff like that. And it's not my thing. But again, I'm not judging other people's faiths. I'm just not. It's not for me. I don't want to meet a spouse on my wedding day. Like, to me, that doesn't make sense. Like,
Why? You don't wanna
you've
go
been
on
with
married
for,
at
what,
first
4
sight?
years, you said? So, like, can you imagine if the first time you met him was when he pulls back a veil and you're standing there in a dress? Right.
Yeah, that would be a little weird.
It would be very weird, because how would you know if
But,
you
I
like
mean-
meshed with him
I
on
mean-
that in that way?
To be fair,
It wasn't really a romantic thing back then.
I was gonna say, like, I didn't really meet him to get with him. He just kind of stalked me at work a little bit. And then I fell in love with his dog first.
That sounds way worse than it actually is.
It really does. But on the other hand, I did fall in love with our dog first.
And
He sucked me in.
I think she's more annoyed by the dog at this point than she is the guy. I'm just saying.
They're pretty equal.
Depends on the day. Let me put it that way. I've been at their house many times, and it depends on the day.
Yeah, they're pretty equal in annoyance, but I still love them both.
Well, of course, of course. And I guess we only got a little bit of time left. Do you want to? I mean, I know you're planning on getting married, and
Yeah, next October.
awesome.
It's crazy, like 448 days now.
I was hoping to DJ. That was going to be my wedding gift to them, but the place said no.
Yeah, our vendor only allows certain, like,
Yeah.
vendors.
Anyone that knew me when I was in Florida knows that that was something that I did quite a bit, and I think I could handle their equipment better than they know. But I also get, if they don't know somebody, they want to make sure that,
Yeah.
like, I
yeah.
get it.
We can only hire, like, they gave us a vendor list, and there was only, like, 3 DJs on there.
Yeah,
Like,
I get it. I get it. But that was, and my son's thing was he got ordained so that he could marry them. And he asked me, he goes, "You think that's a good idea?" I was like, "Sure." He goes, "I know people are going to say I'm not supposed to because, you know, it's a woman." And at the time, it was before you said you were non-binary. He was like, "It's a woman and a trans person. And is that?" And I was like, "What do you think?" He's like, "Well, I'm not supposed to judge." I'm like, "That's probably the more important piece of that." And he goes, "And I love them." I'm like, "There you go." Like, right? Like, isn't that the, like,
that's kind of the whole point in the whole marriage thing.
I mean, you would hope. Like, so, he asked, he's like, "So you don't think there's a problem?" I said, "No." And he's like, "All right." And then he just went online and got the thing. He's like,
Yeah.
It was that simple. And they didn't even charge him. They're like, "Oh, it could cost $1 or something." And then he was like, he clicked no. And they're like, "You're ordained." He's like, "All right then." Like, he could have given him $1, but
Right.
they didn't need it apparently.
Yeah.
And they, he's got the paperwork to back up that he's able to do it, so it's all legal. Anyway, I guess that's about, it's getting close to the end of our time. It's been like 25 minutes almost. 22 minutes.
We have 2 minutes.
We have 2 minutes left? Okay. I was trying to read hand signals, and I'm not wearing my glasses. Anyway, all right. So I'll just start wrapping up or whatever. I'm going to just say, if you would like to email us, it's morallystraight@outlook.com. Please, we both have access to it. If you have any questions, comments, if you want to, come on and you're in either community, Christian, LGBTQIA plus, or both, please, we would love to, we've done interviews. We'd love to do more. If you have any topics you would like us to discuss, if you have a problem with like what I came up with, if you're like, well, what about this? And you have flaws, I'm more than willing to talk about it. Like, that's why I wanted to give you a chance to, like, it's like, because I'm not trying to like say this is how it has to be. I'm just saying this could work as a answer, was my thought. Yeah.
It could work in a perfect equal world.
Well, like I said, it's supposed to be equal, and that's what I'm basing
Right.
it on.
That's the problem. This world
Well,
is not.
That is true. But anyway, until next time, I'm one of your hosts. I'm Craig,
I'm Mariah.
and hate is immoral.